Hello there everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do a topic I've been meaning to do for a long time but just haven't gotten around to doing, and that is the topic of Tears of the Kingdom DLC. I think a lot of us have been expecting this to be announced. I think a lot of people even expected it perhaps in that June Direct a couple of months ago, but we still haven't seen it, and a lot of people are wondering, are we still gonna see DLC for this game, a paid DLC expansion like Breath of the Wild had? Could it be in two waves like Breath of the Wild was, or maybe it'll be one bigger expansion? Today I want to talk about that and more, starting off with just the simple question of whether or not I think it'll happen. Logic would indicate that it will happen just based on how well Tears of the Kingdom is sold. It's on track to outsell Breath of the Wild, but Breath of the Wild had its DLC announced when the game was released, like before it even came out. Like, you could pre-order the expansion pass on the day that the Switch came out and on Wii U whenever it was up for preload, right? So it's a little bit of a different situation here where, you know, typically with Nintendo games, first party, they announce expansion passes in advance, at least a few weeks before release. The only exception that comes to mind is Pokemon, which is kind of in its own realm of weird, whatever Pokemon company wants to do, right? But with Fire Emblem, for example, both those games had their season passes announced in advance. Xenoblade games, same thing there. Even free content like Splatoon or the Mario Sports games, those are usually announced before the games come out. I can't think of any other examples of them announcing a DLC season pass after the game released. I think Luigi's Mansion 3, maybe, would be one of those, which is Luigi's Mansion 3, so maybe not the most exciting there. But my point is, they don't do that very often. Typically, if they have extensive DLC plans, they lay that roadmap out before the game is actually released. So it does beg the question, why wouldn't they have done that for Tears of the Kingdom, since they have traditionally done that? And I think it does indicate that maybe we won't get DLC, despite, like I said, what logic would tell you based on how much this game is sold. It's kind of like with Elden Ring, that game released, it did super well, and then almost a year later they announced DLC for it, because it's like, well, you gotta do DLC for Elden Ring. I'm sure Bandai Namco is pushing for that, like I'm sure Nintendo is pushing the Zelda team to release some sort of DLC, even if it wasn't in the cards. But let's go ahead and get into what this DLC could be and when it could be revealed, if it is real. So I've been in this camp ever since the June Direct, and frankly that's only because it wasn't in the June Direct, that it will probably be announced in September. However, while prepping this video, I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, Tears of the Kingdom is probably going to win Game of the Year. So what I think instead will happen is, in the September Direct, they will announce a free Master Mode for this game. I know Master Mode was paid in Breath of the Wild, but frankly, I don't think that mode should have been a paid update, to be honest. So I think dropping that as a free update in September, being like, hey, we hear you guys, you like Tears of the Kingdom, here's an update. Maybe it has some other quality of life or tweaks or little things, but the headlining feature there will be the Master Mode. Kind of like when Metroid Dread got that free boss rush update with the Dread difficulty and that kind of thing. So in September, released as a free update, and maybe tease more to come. You know, don't get too explicit with it, but maybe tease like, hey, we're working on more content, be prepared. And then at the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's event, announced that DLC, maybe even put a date on it if it's closer, but maybe it's further out, like I said, if they didn't start really making it until the game came out. I think that would be a good time to announce it. Every year we do this with the Game Awards, though, where we're like, oh, Nintendo's going to have something. And while they don't sometimes, they actually do pretty often, going back to 2017 with Bayonetta 3, and of course, most importantly for this video, the Champions Ballad was announced and released there, or was shown and released there that same day. We got a trailer with the Master Cycle and all that. That was at the Game Awards. Then the following year, we saw Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 announced, which was a first-party Nintendo game, or a Nintendo-published game, right? Then there was a couple years there where we really didn't get much, but it seems like maybe recently Nintendo's kind of revisiting that Game Awards well, with Bayonetta Origins being announced at the Game Awards in 2022. So I do think an announcement there makes a lot of sense, especially if it is further out, if it is something that maybe they haven't started developing yet, or they didn't start developing in full throttle until the game release and they saw its massive sales success. Maybe, you know, if it's a summer release next year or something, they could announce it there, and that would make a lot of sense. But as for what it'll be, so I'm saying the Master Mode DLC or update, that'll be free. But what does that actually mean for the substantial paid content that could be added to Tears of the Kingdom? Well, I don't really want to get into massive spoiler story stuff here. I'm sure there are plenty of theories on YouTube about what the story of this DLC could be, what the implications could be on the lore of this new Hyrule, and all these things. That's not really what I want to do today. I just want to more talk about it from a gameplay perspective and a setting perspective. So a couple of things, and these are ideas I was throwing around before the game even came out. I'm sure I did some sort of video talking about what DLC could be before we had even played the game. So first up, and this is, I think, something that a lot of people want to see, just as a more of a fun thing, maybe not like the main focus of the DLC. Let's see the runes from Breath of the Wild, you know? I don't think they would break the game. I've seen some people say that. I think it would just be fun, just to have the original runes from Breath of the Wild. I know some people might look at that and be like, okay, well, we already did this, and that's totally fair. But also, Nintendo just sold us Inkopolis Plaza for Splatoon 3 from Splatoon 1. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, and frankly, I just think it would be a lot of fun to have those abilities in Tears of the Kingdom. But more importantly, how will this new DLC actually be structured? What will you be doing in this DLC? Well, I think the most likely thing would be some sort of new dungeon or shrines, right? I think that that's how you add content to this game. That's how they did it for Breath of the Wild. They just added more shrines and a new divine beast with the Champions Ballad at least. So I think a new dungeon with some complementary shrines to do, maybe so you can finally fill out your health and your stamina wheel all in one go, that would make the most sense. But will that stuff be in the pre-existing map? I've seen some people trying to debate whether or not they'll just add more Sky Islands or more stuff on the base Hyrule map or maybe the underground. I think ideally for me personally, and I know this is not what's going to happen, they actually just add a new area to the map. I think that's always more exciting when they actually add a substantial, like, new explorable area. That's what I like actually about what Pokemon's doing with their DLC, is that you just get new areas. That's nice. They might not be the most, complex or, complicated, but they're new areas to explore. I've already explored Paldea, give me new areas, and that's what they're doing. Same with the Sword and Shield DLC. With Breath of the Wild, it's just like, hey, go back to the Great Plateau, do some stuff there. And that's fun. It's exciting to go back and re-explore these areas, but at this point, I've re-explored this Hyrule twice, So re-exploring it again, that might be asking a bit much for me. So if they do a new area, maybe to the north, or, I mean, it could even be a Sky Island, I guess, because those are so separated. That would be just something separate. A nice separate area is what I'm saying. Don't tell me to go to the Great Plateau and do a challenge. Don't tell me to go to the Great Sky Island and do a challenge. That's not what I want to see with this DLC. I want to see a substantially new area, or at least a changed area that we do not see in the base Tears of the Kingdom game. Now, the beauty of this is, with the Sky Islands, they can just plop a new Sky Island up there. That's totally valid, and that's possible for sure. Or, more likely, and if they aren't going to make a new area, this is what I want them to do for this DLC, barring any story stuff and what they might do with the story for this DLC. Give the underground some content. Now, Tears of the Kingdom is easily my game of the year, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's without faults. The underground, it was so exciting when this game kind of leaked and we learned about it, and then we got our hands on it, and it was just so cool that they kept that a secret. This underground entire underlayer of Hyrule was just hiding, and Nintendo never revealed it. And then you play the game, and it's fun going down there, and it's kind of spooky and ominous, and you get some cool luminous ores and all that. But then you realize, outside of the Yiga Clan quest, there's not actually much content. You can free fight bosses down there several times and do the Yiga Clan quest. That's basically it. There's not enough substantial content down there. I do think there's more than people lit on a little bit. We still have the fire dungeon and some other spoiler stuff that I won't get into if you haven't finished the game, but there's not enough. There's not none. I'm not going to say that, but there is not enough. There does need to be more. So I think if for this DLC they spruce up the underground a little bit, add more quests down there, that kind of thing, that would be a great selling point. And then, like I said, too, with the Sky Islands, I mean, that's also very possible. In fact, that would probably be the easiest thing to do, is just add new Sky Islands. If you look at the map, there's not that many of them, honestly. I mean, there's a lot. I'm not saying there's like a dearth of content here, But just looking at the map literally from like a space perspective, there's a lot of empty space for them to just plop a new Sky Island and have something there. So I think that's how they'll do it. In terms of new content, it's going to be in the Sky Island or the underground. I don't think there's a single thing they need to add to the base Hyrule. In fact, if they do that, I'm going to be a little disappointed because we've done that twice now. You don't need to spruce that up anymore. Fix up the skies, fix up the underground, add more content there, and, you know, depending on how the story goes, I mean, I think that could be just exactly what this needs to be. Like I said, preferably they expand and add to the north or the south or the east or one of those kind of things, but realistically it'll probably be a Sky Island or some underground content, and I'd be fine with that too. So with that, I'm going to end it there. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think the Tears of the Kingdom DLC will be? And more importantly, I guess, do you think it'll even happen? I'm still not 100% convinced. I think that Master Mode update is guaranteed in September, but after that, we'll see. You know, I do think it's possible, just because of the way that Nintendo has traditionally announced DLC, that maybe for some reason they're just like, no. You know, we already reused the map. Maybe we don't want to sell DLC for this game. You know, maybe they just want to move on from developing what they've been working on for the past 11 years. You know, maybe they just want to move on. That is totally possible too. And maybe we won't get DLC for this game, but the sales would suggest, as at least from a business perspective, that not releasing DLC would be crazy. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, something I didn't even mention is the Ganondorf and Zelda amiibo releasing later this year. I mean, that'd be a pretty great thing to release alongside some sort of update, I imagine. But we'll see. So like I said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think the DLC is going to be? What do you want it to be? And when do you think it'll be announced/released? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And until next time, folks, make sure you subscribe for more daily Nintendo content. Peace.